SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
This is Gerard Gibert, and thank you for listening to MidDays here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
MidDays with Gerard Gibert is on the air. MidDays with Gerard Gibert is powered by C-Spire. Power your home or business with C-Spire Fiber. To learn more, visit supertalk.fm/C-Spire. C-Spire Fiber powers SuperTalk Mississippi. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to MidDays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to MidDays, SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm your host, Gerard Gibert, along with Rhino in the Element Wealth Studio, guiding you through the middle of your day with facts, fodder, and fine music on this
Friday, y'all.
Well, it's more than just that. As you can see, I've got the T-shirt on here. Please describe.
The blue T-shirt emblazoned with the Journey. Is that the 50th anniversary tour?
That's right,
logo?
50th anniversary tour with the signatures of the Journey group also on the T-shirt. So I'm wearing that because today it is my 44th wedding anniversary. 44.
Congrats.
Yeah, in the books. Man, it's hard to believe. Where'd the time go? So you know how it's hot outside today and has been? I just want you to know it was on the Mississippi Gulf Coast when I got married in 1981 on this day. It was brutal hot there at the Nativity BVM in downtown Biloxi. I just remember it vividly, of course, as we all should on our wedding day. 44 years of marital bliss. Happy anniversary to my saintly wife, Julie. I'm a hard person to live with. I know that. That's something all those who are married should recognize. It would likely enable you to stay married longer when you realize that you can become insufferable as part of that. I get it, but it's a give and take is what it is. I wouldn't have had it any other way, I'll tell you that. 44 long years. Can't wait to see what the future holds for us. But we're all strapped in the Element Wealth studio. In fact, we've got Jeremy Nelson, president of Element Wealth, joining us at 10:20. That should be an interesting discussion. Stocks are higher this morning on more optimism about trade deals coming from the Trump administration. I think just putting these things to bed, it's like we say so many times, it's faith, confidence, and certainty. And when you have uncertainty surrounding our trade environment, there tends to be a little hesitancy among investors, and that's because businesses get a little hesitant. But once you've got some certainty and clarity and you get deals nailed down, that kind of opens the door up a bit. Now, I've been watching the funny money. It's down a little bit today, $3,300, down to 115,000. Ethereum also down. The Dow up about 90 points. The NASDAQ, it's up marginally as well, about 35 points. And the old interest rates are hanging in there. No really major change there. So you may have seen yesterday the president met with Jerome Powell, the Fed chairman. They went to walk through the construction site, the $2.5 billion project to renovate the Fed's headquarters. So, Rhino, this rather viral photo that all the media outlets are featuring in their article about this event, with the president standing next to Jerome Powell and they got their hard hats on, and Powell's got some piece of paper in his hand, and he looks a little perplexed, and the president's pointing out something to him that has to do with these cost overruns. Well, what are you talking about?
Yeah, the president said something about it's now $3.1 billion, and Jerome Powell corrected him. He's like, no, that's not right. And Trump just reaches in his pocket and pulls out a piece of paper and hands it to him. It's like, it's right there.
What are the odds that this is going to be a feature on Saturday Night Live? We could have so much fun with that, featuring a couple of them there with their hard hats on and their suits and ties. The president, of course, 79 years old. Jerome Powell, 72 years old. The president's still pressuring him to lower interest rates. By the way, he was accompanied, was the president yesterday, by Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, was also making the tour. And they were both talking about interest rates. They said Americans need lower interest rates to afford homes. Well, I certainly agree. We talked yesterday about the median price of a home has now advanced to $438,000. Our friend Ben from Madison was talking about yesterday, sent a text in. We were discussing this recent Cato Institute poll showing that a majority of Gen Z, that's 18 to 29, isn't it? The Gen Z population? 18 to 29, I believe. Isn't that the age group?
I think it's a bit bigger than that. But
okay.
Yeah.
Well, nonetheless, the Gen Zs in a poll said they have a favorable view by some 64% of socialism and 34%.
Yeah, it's 13 to 29.
13 to 29, okay. 34% said they have a favorable view of communism. I was just shocked at this. I shouldn't be. I guess they don't know what the heck it is. I don't believe.
Well, I mean, if they're polling 13-year-olds about their political persuasion, it's not really a great poll, is it?
That's absolutely true. That is crazy in my view. I just don't know about that whole deal. You don't know what the questions were in the poll, but the Cato Institute, more of a conservative outfit, you would think the questions would be reasonable along those lines.
Before somebody says it, I know they weren't questioning 13-year-olds. It was a joke. It's Friday, lighten up, Francis.
Right. Exactly. I got it.
You got it, but I could hear someone screaming at the radio. One of those perpetually red-reared, miserable liberals that listens for some odd reason.
So I talked about this on my social media, by the way. I referenced the poll, and I place a lot of the blame on our educational systems because they are dominated by leftists, Marxists in many situations. And there's no secret, especially in higher ed. So if you think about those in that age group of 18 to 29, forget the 13-year-olds, of course, but you're college age, right? And you're just getting fed this line of how great socialism and communism, because what they see out of that is, oh, I don't have to work and they're going to give me this stuff. And that's what they hear. But here's what they'll tell you. Okay, but in exchange for that, you're going to have to give up, some freedom. Well, I don't want to do that. I just want your money. I really do think they want that aspect, what I call transferism. They want that. Just transfer it to me. But they don't want to concede any freedom. They still want to be free. And like I said yesterday, when you look at these groups of people you always see surrounding the self-avowed socialist Zoran Mondani, the Democratic candidate for mayor in New York, these are well-kept, well-dressed people, young people, elite people from the Upper East Side that, have had $150,000 college educations. They got diamond earrings on and the latest smartphones and $1,500 purses and expensive clothing. They're far from being oppressed, impoverished people that have been robbed by corporate America.
And because they're that out of touch with reality, either they've been convinced or they've convinced themselves that under communism or socialism that they would be able to have all this free stuff, and their occupation would be something like, I write slam poetry for my cats.
That's right.
Instead of realizing they'd likely be digging ditches or working in a mine because they have no actual life skills.
And that's what happens to you in those systems. But the other thing that bothers me just as part of the social media exercise is there's some folks that I respect. They're smart people, they're good people, but they would be, you know what I'm talking about here, of the ilk that is libertarian and anti-Republican. So immediately it's the Republicans' fault. Every single problem known to man, right from that group, it's Republicans, the Republicans. And I said, dude, Republicans didn't cause 18 to 29-year-olds to think that socialism is better. There's no way. What did they do exactly? Well, it's the lobbyists. Oh, my gosh, I'm so sick of hearing that crap, too.
I would be willing to listen to them further than that if they made a point like, oh, well, telling people how they can act in public is going to turn some young people off because they're rebellious. You might have half of a point there. But the lobbyist, no, you're just spouting crap that you're regurgitating talking points you don't understand.
Jeremy Nelson is next. This segment of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Check it out. Let's do this.
The talk that keeps Mississippi talking. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Let's get on with it.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
That's right on cue there, little Pink Floyd. That's because we welcome now Jeremy Nelson, president of Element Wealth, into the Element Wealth studio. Hey, Jeremy, what's going on, man?
Doing well. Happy anniversary. Congratulations.
Oh,
That's
appreciate that.
I got 17 years coming up in December.
Well, that's great. 17? Yeah. 44 for me.
That's impressive.
That, man, where does the time go? I know that's an obvious cliche-ish type question, but it really is true. And Julie and I, this past weekend, I talked about it Saturday night. Julie's on the board at Catholic Charities. She's the development chair, and so their big annual fundraiser is called the Bishop's Ball. And she works a lot, year-round on that. It goes around, meets with stores and businesses and merchants and so forth, gets them to donate, contribute things for the auctions, does a great job. And there's a bunch of work and planning and coordinating with the team at Catholic Charities, but I serve as the MC. So it was my honor to introduce her because it's her event, of course. She did say some things, and when I did so, I let her know. I got a little bit emotional, I'll have to say, for a minute, because I was thinking about her parents, who are salt of the earth. We're so blessed to have been born to fantastic, great Christian, hardworking parents, but her parents were both devout Catholics. Her mother and her mother, my mother-in-law, was actually the controller for the Catholic diocese after a career as the chief accountant at Keesler Air Force Base. She retired from civil service as a GS-11, which is like a colonel type level. Went to take that on. And her father, also a Biloxi native, old Biloxi family, devout Catholic. Sold cars at D Chevrolet, World War II, decorated in the U.S. Navy. And I just said, your parents are in heaven and they're smiling down on you today. They like what they see, in their daughter. And So kind of timely that 4 or 5 days later we have our anniversary. I'm getting off the subject a little bit, but I just want to share that because it's my anniversary. But
I give her all the credit for putting up with you all these years.
I tell you, no doubt, and I'm happy to admit that. I just want you to know I'm happy to acknowledge that we husbands can be insufferable. I get it, and you've been married 17 years. It's a give and take, man.
Yeah,
and it's inevitable.
I wouldn't be where I am without Katie. So,
well, me too. With respect to Julie, no doubt about it. And but that's what marriage is all about. It's hard to make it work, but it's worth it.
It is.
There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And we need more of it. So, wow, since the last time we talked, a lot has happened in the economy with respect to the markets. Wasn't too long ago on Liberation Day, there was a meltdown after that. That was expected, was it not?
Yeah, I mean, I remember back when Liberation Day happened, right, what was our number one point was just be cool, don't panic.
Yeah.
Because you knew that these tariff numbers were, I mean, the numbers that they were putting up were...
It's crazy.
They were lies.
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't the actual, tariff rates. I mean, but it was a negotiating point. And we said, look, I mean, there's no way that this is going to stick because if it did, it would be catastrophic.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing things kind of normalize out. Yeah, I think the big question mark is, we don't know where exactly everything is going to settle out still and then what the long-term impact is going to be, right? We got the Japan deal, 15%. So, your Lexuses and Toyotas and stuff are going to be a little bit more expensive now. But one of the points that we've made with regard to the inflationary impact of this is that we're not really going to know until this quarter, the third quarter, right? Because first quarter GDP was negative because everyone front-loaded imports.
Yeah.
And so we didn't really see the impact in that first and early part of the second quarter. We're starting to see a little bit of a tick up in inflation, but it's nothing that's, sending us back to where we were in 2022.
Yeah. This feud between the president and the Fed chairman, though, it continues to fester. And, there's been rumors that maybe he'll fire him. Then there's questions, does he have the authority to fire him? Yesterday, you saw they had this meeting at the Fed headquarters. You got members of Congress that are calling for him to be terminated for various reasons, even possible investigation into lying to Congress about things. So, such as the cost of this building, which I honestly think that's a stretch and wouldn't be in the best interest of the country.
No, I'm very staunchly in favor of Fed independence. I think that being the Fed chair is one of the most difficult jobs because for more than 2 decades they've been responsible for bailing out the federal government for poor fiscal policy.
Yeah.
And, I understand that, yes, we would all like interest rates to go down. But the Fed only controls the short end of the curve.
Right.
They set the overnight rates. They don't set the 10-year Treasury rate. So even if the Fed were to cut coming up here in July, there's no guarantee that the long-term rates are going to go down. If the market thought that long-term rates should be lower, people would be buying bonds and long-term rates would be lower.
Yeah.
Right? Now, unless the Fed did some massive quantitative easing program and really started buying up long-term bonds to drive the rates down, okay, they could do that, but that's just money printing and there's no need for that.
Yeah, I feel like we're past that. I don't think there's an appetite at the Fed to start QE and loading up the balance sheet at this point. In fact, just the opposite.
I think that if they did that, you would see the dollar tank really fast.
That's already a problem.
Yep.
We're already seeing some chinks in the armor of the dollar here, which is disturbing.
Yep.
You've been seeing this.
That's something I've talked about for a long time.
You have.
Hey, this is what's going to happen here is this: we're going to go through a dollar weakening cycle. Now, over time, the dollar weakening is actually somewhat natural, right? The dollar actually peaked back in like 1965, 1966.
Yeah.
But it coincided with when the United States percentage of global GDP was the largest. And over time, remember, we're only 5% of the global population. And so the dollar has gradually weakened over time. There's up and down cycles in it, but it's weakened over time as we have become a smaller piece of the global economy.
It's something you don't hear a lot about. I mean, the average person on the street's not really thinking about the dollar value for the most part. Of course, inflation, you could argue, has devalued it to some extent. But what about all the debt? Is that possibly a factor in that as well?
Well, I think that it is a factor. I remember the press secretary talking about how Canada and Switzerland and all these countries had lower interest rates than we had in the United States, and saying, like, we're better, we should have lower interest rates than them because we're the United States, we're more creditworthy. The issue is that they don't run the deficits that we run, right? You know, with all of this stuff coming on, like in Canada, there's a new prime minister, and they're ramping up defense spending. And in their budget, it's going to take their deficit as a percentage of GDP up to like 1.8%.
Yeah.
Well, we're over 6%. We're running debt to GDP. Our deficit as a percentage of GDP today is more than it was in the Great Depression.
Yeah. And that's the key indicator that is most looked at. It's just deficit and debt, the ratio of that to GDP. Yeah. And for what it's worth, as you're aware, that is the same sort of data point that investors look at when they look at the balance sheet of a private company.
Exactly.
They look at that debt to EBITDA, debt to net income, and all kinds of different ways of measuring that. But it's all about just the stability, the solvency, and just the status of the company from a financial perspective.
Yeah, I mean, with the debt too, there's like kind of a supply and demand thing. So if we're running these massive deficits, it means that there's just a lot of supply, right? And there's not enough demand, and therefore interest rates are going to be a little bit higher in the United States right now. So, and the housing market, for example, the median price of a house up. We talked about that yesterday, $438,000. That's a new record, of course, and that's out of range for many Americans who cannot afford a house, especially with 7% mortgage rates. But here's my concern, Jeremy, that the president's calling for mortgage rates to be reduced, interest rates to be reduced, which may in turn cause the 10-year to come down, which would drive potentially mortgage rates down. And we'll get to this on the other side of the break. But may we see then an increase in the demand for housing, which would drive the price up, which just offsets the interest rate reduction. Yin and yang.
Yeah.
You're exactly right.
All right. We're coming right back with Jeremy Nelson, the president of Element Wealth.
With Gerard Gibert.
Welcome to our shop
on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Okay, now you have a good one.
I paid the bank note, the car note, and yes, I paid the phone bill too. And then I turned around and I found that the house note's due. Well, I'd love to take you out like I said I would, honey, but there's too much month at the end of the money. Well, I got a little favor I want to ask of you, my love.
We're back with you in the Element Wealth studio. Jeremy Nelson, president of Element Wealth, is our guest. So, we always have folks in our audience, and I know you do a great show every Wednesday morning where you talk to folks about more their personal situation. But what do you guys do to let the folks know that? And then what's your strategy, your general approach today to assisting people, especially those that are approaching retirement, thinking about how they should structure their investments to make sure they have a comfortable retirement?
So I think today what people have to do is really understand what they're trying to achieve, because we're starting to see a sentiment shift, just like we saw back in 2021, just like we saw back in 1999, where all of a sudden people are now looking to try to get rich.
Yeah.
Right? And ultimately, hey, if you want to gamble, you can gamble, but that's not what we do, right? What we do is we help people articulate the goals that they have for themselves, their families, their communities, right, and build plans to get there. Because ultimately, if you're at or near retirement, you don't have time to recoup. Hey, if you're 21 years old, go for it, right? Because you've got time to rebuild. But if you're 60, 65 years old, you don't have time to rebuild it.
Right.
And so I think today, as I'm looking at the market, there is incredible opportunity within income generation, right? I mean, this is the best environment that I have seen my entire career to generate income. Right? Okay. So, you start thinking about, all right, how am I going to create a retirement paycheck? Right? Because ultimately that's what we do, right? We have a portfolio.
Yeah, you're not working.
We're not working. We get some Social Security. Maybe we're lucky enough to have PERS.
Yeah.
But then we need income from the portfolio to subsidize it. And the reality is that we don't know what the future is going to look like. We don't know when the next big bear market is. We don't know when the next big recession is, right? But if you've got a portfolio that's generating cash flow that's stable to you, you know that that's going to continue to come out. And then the volatility, the ups and downs just becomes noise. So today I think if I'm looking at where value is in the market, right, equity income is cheap. Growth is expensive, right? If you look at the price to earnings ratio on the S&P 500 today, it is astronomically high relative to where interest rates are. Now, but that's only because a few select companies, the market's become so concentrated, right? A few select companies are making that PE ratio high. If you go under the hood, there's a lot of boring stuff that's profitable, that generates dividends, that's actually pretty reasonable right now. And we saw the same thing play out in the early 2000s, right? The NASDAQ went down 80%. Equity income was down like 20%, and it recovered within a year or so. So I think today people need to really start evaluating what their goals are, being realistic about their portfolios, and not necessarily chasing the hottest stuff. I won't say what the company is, but because we're not giving individual stock advice here. But I've got dividend investors calling me about a company that's trading at 117 times revenue.
Ooh.
Actually, no, it just went up.
Revenue?
It's 100. Actually, today it's 128 because it went up.
Of revenue.
128 times revenue, 700 times earnings.
Gosh.
And they're like, we got to get this. I'm like, no, that just doesn't fit the profile, right? And so, what I'm seeing today is a shift in sentiment because people are looking at charts saying, well, it did this, it's going to extrapolate into this. It's like, no, that's not the way this works.
Oh, my gosh. That's crazy. So how are you advising clients these days about cryptocurrency? A lot of talk about that. You see some people say stay away from it. Other advisors say, yeah, it has a place in your portfolio. What are you telling people?
So it's funny. I literally just wrote an email to a client about this right before I came in here. Here's my view, right? Bitcoin is the biggest, right?
Okay.
And so let's just kind of focus on Bitcoin because there's a lot of just garbage out there.
Yeah.
I mean, just total trash. There's no use.
Rhino's shaking his head.
Right?
By the way, he tracks that stuff. Yeah.
And so Bitcoin, it started out, it was like, oh, this is going to be the global currency. Well, it's not big enough to be the global currency, and governments are going to defend themselves against that, right?
Sure.
So now it's digital gold. But the fundamental issue is if you look at drawdown charts on it, over the last 10 years, you've had 360+% declines in it, right? So it's very, very, very volatile. So I say, look, if you want to own a little bit and it's money that you're willing to really be volatile in the portfolio, okay. Right, that's fine. We're not going to do it because you can just go on Coinbase and open an account and put some money in, right? Yeah. But to me, it's unpredictable, right? And it's all supply and demand. Now, again, I don't think it's going to go to zero. I don't think it's going away. But I think the one thing that I'm pretty certain of is that it's going to continue to be very volatile. And do I really want to chase it after these massive big runs? No. Right? If you haven't been in it, you want to be in it, maybe just be patient because, I mean, history shows us that there's going to be some massive corrections at some point.
So, gold. Talk about that for a minute because there are a lot of folks that fear that the debt is going to take us under, and they need some hedge against that, and they look to physical metal, gold.
Yeah, so gold is long-term a very volatile inflation hedge, right? So if you take the price of gold and you go way back, right?
Yeah.
What you see is, it's a great inflation hedge. Now, it's a very volatile inflation hedge.
Okay.
It doesn't produce any cash flow. I would personally much rather own dividend-paying stocks, right? Dividend growth, because now I have an asset that produces me cash flow that I can live off of.
Okay.
It's got the same volatility as gold, right? Actually, gold's probably a little bit higher than diversified baskets of dividend-paying stocks. And what's going to happen is over time those corporations are going to raise their dividends. Now, there's periods where gold's in the tank and it becomes an attractive buy, right? Today, gold's pretty expensive, right? So, again, if you look at the cycles in gold, we go through gold booms, gold busts. Today, obviously, the dollar's weakening, so it's a good period for gold right now. I think the dollar weakening period will continue for a while, so that probably supports gold here. But eventually, it's going to go the other way, right? The dollar will strengthen again. That'll be weak for gold, and gold will go in kind of another malaise for a while.
The big, beautiful bill signed into law on the books. Now we have clarity about tax policy, and, of course, that is especially important with respect to capital gains.
Mm-hmm.
We've got that locked in now. How's that affecting investing? What are you hearing in the industry?
So I think that the best thing is for seniors with the $6,000 additional
standard deduction. Yeah.
Right? So what that's going to do, it's going to create more opportunities for things like Roth conversions.
Okay.
Because what ends up happening with a lot of people is you get later on in life, you've got these IRAs, and next thing you know, you've got this big tax burden. Well, you've got a window between when you retire and when you have required minimum distributions to do things like Roth conversions and leverage some of those lower tax brackets.
The age of the RMD?
Yeah.
What is that?
So right now,
what
73.
73,
yeah.
Okay.
And it's going to 74 and then ultimately 75.
Because I remember it being 72, right?
Yeah. Well, it used to be 70 and a half, then it moved to 72.
Okay.
We're up to 73 now.
Gotcha.
So you've got a window in here where you can do things like Roth conversions to eliminate some of those future higher tax rates that you're going to face from those RMDs. So I think that's really, really good. I think overall, it's a lot. I mean, outside of the overtime and tips and this additional standard deduction, I mean, it's basically the same thing that we've had. We do know it's going to increase deficits over time. Right now, obviously, the president says, well, the CBO is under-accounting for growth.
Mm-hmm.
We always cut taxes and do things and then say growth will pay for it, and we never quite get there, right? I mean, we've heard this for 25 years now, right? I mean, it started under Bush because we've never cut spending to a level.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like the spending just stays level.
Yeah.
It doesn't. So we have growth, but we also have growth in spending.
Yeah, and so I think that ultimately we're going to see continued deficits. So for me, if I'm a retiree today, I'm doing anything I can to take advantage of this window for the next 5 to 8 years or so, because there's a chance in the future we might have to reverse course and raise taxes if we don't get enough growth to pay for the bill.
Boy. Man, we got a little break right now, but if you can hang around, we can continue this discussion up to the top of the hour. We've got Jeremy Nelson, president of Element Wealth, in the Element Wealth studio, coming right back.
Covering the stories that matter most to Mississippians. Gerard Gibert. Middays with Gerard. SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's a little journey there. Appreciate that, Rhino. It is my 44th wedding anniversary. We're enjoying that. Got the obligatory Journey 50th anniversary T-shirt on. I got another one, by the way. I'm just going to tease it, that I'm going to change into after the break, that kind of dovetails into some of the discussions we've been having here about in our first segment, the young folks who seem to be embracing socialism in this country. But we're talking to Jeremy Nelson, the president of Element Wealth. All right, so we at least have some clarity with respect to taxes, and that's a big thing. We were just talking offline about the changes between what we have today and what we are going to have relative to the big, beautiful bill. The main thing from a personal perspective, everything stays the same except a deduction for tips for overtime, an additional standard deduction for seniors. All that's temporary, though. All that expires at the end of 28. Yep. To me, and I get your thoughts on this, the most important provision in the bill with respect to driving economic growth and hopefully trimming our deficit somewhat is the making permanent immediate expensing.
Yeah, I think that does so much for businesses to be able to invest, right? And if you think where we are from the economic cycle, we're at a point where AI and technology and robotics, right? All that stuff, we're really on the forefront.
Yeah.
And we're just getting going. And in order to drive productivity, right? Because labor productivity is the backbone of economic growth over time.
Right.
That's if you don't have labor productivity, if a worker can't do more, you don't grow. And so this allows businesses to invest in labor productivity, and that creates long-term growth. And so being able to immediately expense that is huge to continue to invest for the future.
Right. And the other point that Rhino and I have made numerous times, Rhino likes to refer to it as second-order thinking, which most people on the left in this country seem to be incapable of, and that is all the other businesses that sell this capital equipment to large corporations in particular, or each other for that matter, that everybody benefits. Yeah. So maybe they don't like this idea of so-called trickle-down economics, which really isn't an official economic principle. But there's no doubt that a lot of people benefit when they know they're going to make purchases with the understanding that they can write it all off.
Well, and here's my thing is eventually, whether or not I depreciate it over 10 or 20 years or immediately, right, ultimately I'm going to pay taxes.
Yeah,
right.
You're just deferring it.
It's just up front today. I don't, so I can put more money in today to fuel the future growth. So it is good from an economic growth perspective, right? Because I'm getting that immediate benefit. I can be more aggressive in investing for growth in my business.
Yeah, and but you know what inevitably happens is businesses want to make sure that after-tax net income stays level or increases. Mm-hmm. So they say, okay, we can go buy more machinery and equipment, right, that qualifies for the immediate expensing. And that just happens. And a lot of times it'll happen at the end of the year because they get full credit for it.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly.
So that cycle tends to continue, which is a good thing. Yeah. And they're just constantly, essentially deferring the tax on that.
I mean, I think that people have to understand, like, businesses are not evil, right? Businesses create jobs and employ people. And, you know, look, I mean, go back to in 2017 when we cut the corporate tax rate. We just got our corporate tax rate kind of in line with the rest of the world.
That's right, yeah.
Right? We had the highest of all the major countries in the world. Of all the G7, we were like the highest corporate tax rate. We just got it in line. Ultimately, businesses investing and growing creates more jobs, which creates more income for people, more opportunity. And so I think that this is actually a really good move to make it permanent.
The only thing that disappointed me a bit in the bill, get your take on this, is we didn't really meaningfully address the spending problem.
No, and that's the hard part, right? And I mentioned something in the last segment. that's my gripe, right? I mean, we've been looking at this for 25 years now, going back to the Bush tax cuts. And again, I'm all about cutting taxes, putting more money in the pockets of the people. But if you don't cut the spending, we just never hit the growth targets that are necessary to actually get there.
Yeah.
And then we just build these deficits. And we've been doing this for 25 years now.
I mean, I do think that these tax provisions that just went into effect, certainly continuing what we have, will stimulate the economy, but is it enough to offset the rate at which the spending just automatically continues to increase? I don't think so.
No, and that's what the numbers show, and that's why Elon Musk and Senator Rand Paul and some others have been so critical, is they're saying we're not doing enough cutting spending to pay for this.
Yeah. Jeremy Nelson, the president of Element Wealth, has been our guest in the Element Wealth studio. Thanks for coming in.
Always appreciate it.
Yeah, we're coming right back after Fox News and Super Talk News at 11:20. It's Ben Milam with Super Talk Mississippi News. Hour of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by the Mississippi Business Journal. Visit msbusinessjournal.com. Scott Coopwood, publisher and president.
And now, the talk that keeps Mississippi talking.
That's what I like to listen to.
You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert. Here on Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's hour 2 of Middays from the Element Wealth studio on this
Friday, y'all.
Also my anniversary. Okay, I've changed shirts. How about this one?
Costume change. Still a blue shirt, but this one has in big, bold letters across the top, socialism. Followed by 1 out of 5-star review, and the review says, very bad, would not recommend.
They didn't get the memo, some of those folks. Oh, my gosh. Oh, man. Well, got to have a little fun with it because they're so dumb.
Tune into the third hour. We're going to have Gerard dress up in an inflatable T-Rex costume.
That's, of course, the perfect attire to transport the legislation between the chambers down there at the state capitol, right? That's the T-Rex.
I feel like I have to say that was also a joke. If you do tune in at the 12 o'clock hour and don't see him in an inflatable T-Rex costume, I apologize. Amazon's fast. They're not that fast.
I love it. Oh, my gosh. So I got to get to the C Spire text line here. Let's see. Gerard, did you catch yesterday's contributions from me? Curricula used by public schools and state universities are... I don't know what that word's supposed to be with Marxism. So when graduates vote suffused. Okay, I see it now. Yeah. Let's acknowledge the successes of public education. That's George in Greenwood. I did see it, and I'm sorry I didn't get to it yesterday. Well, yeah, that's consistent with what we were saying, that the educational industry, if you will, the community is overborne, dominated by people who lean left, think left, and want to thrust and foist their ideas and their values on young people. They should focus on teaching the basic skills people need to be successful rather than advancing their personal political agenda in the classroom.
But I need to be seen by my class of kindergartners.
So I'm with you there, George. I agree. And many times, Rhino and I have talked about that. And it's especially, I would say, true at the college level because that's when you're more inclined to start thinking for yourself. I mean, not that you don't when you're in K through 12, but you're more about taking instructions at that level and really not just thinking through all that. It's I don't know, a little more dogmatic. But when you get in college, the idea, of course, and what it's supposed to be is a laboratory of ideas where you're exposed to different points of view and philosophies, and you make your own mind up. But how many times have we come across reports or heard directly, I have, from people. I know you got friends as well that say, yeah, if I speak up, it affects my grade. Right? I can't challenge the instructor. And that's just totally wrong.
Especially considering the readily available access to pretty much all of the world's publicly held information and the change in that availability and access over the last few generations.
Yeah.
Like my generation was probably one of the earlier generations that had more access to college-level information before reaching college outside of a library.
Okay.
And it's only gotten more and more intensive to where you've got teenagers that have access to the same data sets, the same information, the same lectures as college students. So they have a better opportunity to learn more and more and to advance their education farther and farther, but they're hitting the roadblock of liberal dunces teaching them.
And that's, unfortunately, that's how they're being led. So what they're doing is pumping out these obedient little Marxists that just really don't know. I doubt they ever get exposed to the negative side of those systems, to not taught the history there. I think the other thing is...
Or if they are, they're taught a propagandized version, like what you would hear some college students describe Tiananmen Square like.
Agree. And I came across a video, you may have seen this, of... It was, I guess I'd describe it as a roundtable discussion of some Gen Z, millennial-type age folks, and they were talking about Hitler.
Oh, yeah.
Do you see this?
Yeah.
And help me, I don't want to misrepresent the discussion and the nature of it, but...
I only watched about the first 30 seconds because I could tell the collective IQ of the room was pretty low.
It was low. But
they were talking about how people demonize Hitler and they don't pay any attention to the animosity that the Jews brought on themselves for their actions in European countries and, stuff like that.
That's what they said. Essentially, the Jews themselves were responsible for the Holocaust waged against them. They brought it on themselves, right? That's kind of what the point. That's one of the avenues they go down nowadays to be edgy, because things that were edgy 5-10 years ago are no longer as edgy. Well, so does this justify modern-day anti-Semitism?
It's one of the justifications, yeah. Another justification they use is that there were no true concentration extermination camps found in the western part of Europe. They were all discovered under the Soviet occupation of Germany, and they try to talk about how Germany wasn't prepared to take in millions of prisoners of war or have this many people in concentration camps, and that led to the starvation, and all these weird rationalizations and justifications that are simply ignorance of reality and misunderstandings and misinterpretations of history.
I just didn't think I'd see the day where some people who you would hope would be reasonably intelligent would be, I don't know if I'd say praising or lauding Hitler, but they were trying to, as you say, for a long period of time, because I watched a good bit of it, and I was going to share some of it, and of course, you know why I couldn't? Because it's got profanity in it. They cannot have a dang discussion without it. It's amazing. It really is. But they were certainly not denouncing him. They weren't decrying him. They weren't condemning him. It's just unbelievable to me. Maybe I shouldn't be surprised by crazy things anymore. Every day there's something else that crops up. On the C Spire text line, happy anniversary. I think I will go celebrate for you with 2 rounds of golf at Hattiesburg Country Club this weekend. Hope you have many more. Enjoy the course. I heard it was great. In great shape right now. Gerard, to the same woman? Yeah, the same woman. That's great. Happy anniversary to you both. Darren in Jackson says, well, if socialism doesn't turn out like they want it, they will just take to the streets to protest and then find out what socialism is really about. Yeah, that's a great point, Darren. Ray in Long Beach, happy anniversary and congratulations to you and your bride. We are oddities these days. My bride and I were a Southern arranged marriage. Our moms were best friends in grade school, and after a long-awaited visit, they discovered they each had a 21-year-old and decided to introduce us. 16 months later, we were married. August 27th will be 37 years. That's great, Ray. Happy anniversary coming up, and glad that worked out. Happy anniversary, Gerard, from Jimmy Jackson Insurance Agency. Keith and Baden. Gerard, congratulations. I married my bride 44 years ago. Wow. On June the 20th. And you're right, it takes a lot of give and take, but it's worth it. Absolutely. Have you heard of OMA VistaShares Target 15 Berkshire Select Income ETF? I can't say that I have, and I know that was a question for Jeremy. I'd have to look that up. OMAH is the ticker symbol. Bitcoin is proven over time profitable as far as Democrat ideas go. Take it back where it belongs. Agree. Big Bear AI next. Palantir. Yeah. A lot of stuff going on with that stuff. Palantir is the name of that company.
I thought it was Palantir.
Palantir, yeah. I'm looking at something else to mispronounce it. I actually own some Palantir for what that's worth. And what they kind of do is they make technology that sort of fits between AI and the data that the AI is accessing, and it's used in to make sense of all that data in a way that's kind of tailored for a business, for data analytics and big data analysis. It's widely used in large corporations. Palantir, one of the first on the scene with such middleware type technology, does a great job. You're familiar with that and the technology they make. Yeah, it's a darling of investors for sure. Coming right back with Ben Milam, Multimedia Journalist, SuperTalk Mississippi News.
From the talk that keeps Mississippi talking.
We're rolling. Hit it. Go. Play it.
Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays. We're coming at you live from the Element Wealth studio. It's our pleasure to welcome now Ben Milam, Multimedia Journalist, SuperTalk Mississippi News.
Happy Friday, Gerard. Good to see you, man.
What's going on there, Ben?
Well, just enjoying your T-shirt.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what I'm here doing. I love it.
We're talking about that. Yeah, I've also got one we were talking about that says defund the IRS on
Yeah.
it.
I sent a picture of you wearing that to my friend that works for the IRS, and he didn't like it. I don't think he got the humor.
Oh, well, I have to get over it.
Yeah. He'll be fine.
Find something else to do rather than chase people around for taxes, I guess, the way I look at it. Yeah. All right, so what's on your plate these days?
Well, I felt like this week wasn't just a lot of big, hard-hitting news, kind of a slower summer week, but we certainly had plenty to do in the newsroom this week. One of the things that we were personally really excited about is it is Shark Week across, I guess, the U.S. The Discovery Channel is the 37th year that they are focusing in 7 days of pure shark content.
Shark Week.
And so we dug in on some Mississippi-focused shark content and spoke with some experts down at the Mississippi Aquarium and at Southern Miss and their marine biology department, and had two larger articles that I would encourage people to go read if they're interested in sharks, and specifically, kind of digging into what types of sharks are in Mississippi waters, and we've actually got a pretty wide array of shark species in Mississippi waters, and just a few of the, I guess the four most common are the Atlantic sharpnose. Those are the most common. Blacktip sharks, spinner sharks, and bull sharks.
Incredible.
And the Atlantic sharpnose, those are the most common. To get about 3 feet long around there. Bull sharks can be over 10 feet, so they can get kind of big. And every now and then we'll have hammerheads. Those are an endangered species of shark now. And we'll also get some great whites rolling through Mississippi waters. Typically don't stay long in Mississippi waters because they're looking for bigger food that's not in Mississippi waters, so they just kind of roll through on the way, I guess, kind of across the Gulf to waters, deeper waters, colder waters, where they're, larger food to satiate them. So anyways, there's some really interesting things Dr. Jill Hendon with the Center for Fisheries Research and Development at Southern Miss had some really great info for us. I would encourage people to go read that at supertalk.fm. Thankfully no shark attacks to talk about, and actually really quite a rare thing. We had a little bit of a rash, not in Mississippi, but on the Gulf Coast last year. I think we had 4 or 5, in a month span, something like that. Don't quote me on that number, but it was kind of got into the news again, shark attacks, and I think Mississippi people started to ask the question, is it safe to get into the water? And it absolutely is. We've had 4 unprovoked shark attacks since 1837, so I would not worry about that. Bruce is not going to pay you a visit, more than likely. But I would encourage people to go check out Mississippi Aquarium. They are doing a Shark Weekend tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday. Tomorrow, which is Saturday, and then Sunday. 2 full days of shark-themed activities at the Mississippi Aquarium. They do a great job down there. So if you're interested in sharks, that's a great place to go learn about them. Another big thing on the political side, which will also be tomorrow, the first Saturday in-person absentee voting window will open up for the upcoming special elections. And I feel like, Gerard, just based on, general scuttlebutt and the talk, it seems like people may not realize how many special elections are coming up here pretty soon. August 5th, we will have a long list of special elections in the state of Mississippi. Caleb Sailors is spearheading the effort to give us a rundown on that. We'll all be working on that this afternoon, and we'll have that out a little later on supertalk.fm. But, quite literally every part of the state will have special elections. And some of those, the primaries for those redistricting, that was a big topic, has been a big topic this year. Both Senate and House districts will settle some of those, or set up some of those races for November. So keep an eye out for that, and we'll give you a good rundown on the special election side of things. Another thing that came out of this legislative session you've talked about on the show is the DEI ban in public schools. That measure, that law, temporarily blocked by a federal judge Monday, Monday, July 21st. This was originally sparked by a lawsuit filed by the Mississippi ACLU, and the main drive of the argument is basically a First Amendment argument, right? They argue that, this is a quote from the lawsuit, that it, quote, imposes content and viewpoint-based restrictions on protected speech, violates the right of students to receive information, and is unconstitutionally vague. And so a lot of their issue with it is there's this subjective nature to it that would allow too much restriction of education in Mississippi. And I guess if I haven't explained it, the bill basically outlaws the practice of using DEI to both hire new employees and teach courses at all public schools, and in terms of the curriculum, to strip DEI-focused, quote-unquote DEI-focused content and curriculum from Mississippi public schools. That's K through 12 public schools in Mississippi. So this is this is just starting. I think this is going to maybe be a little bit of a drawn-out process, and this is a national conversation too of, are you able to restrict? A lot of people, especially with the current administration in the White House, are very against DEI-focused education. And so this could sort of expand to a regional, national sort of court battle. So this is, I think, just the start of that. It's House Bill 1193 if you want to go look it up and have a little light reading for yourself. But temporarily blocked right now. So it is not in law at the moment as they move through that court process. So that, really interesting to me, and I think that's going to sort of build and build until it comes to a head at some point. Hopefully relatively soon they can settle that, but this is kind of just the kickoff of that, I would think. Yeah,
not sure where that's going, but I suspect you'll see more of that, as you said, across the country as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, so this is going to be your last interview here
that's right.
at SuperTalk. So tell the folks what's going on there.
Yeah, so I offered a job, and accepted a job as a national news anchor at K-Love headquarters in Franklin, Tennessee, the Nashville area. I'll be doing a lot of similar stuff, maybe a little less, stuff that we talk about here a little bit, less hard news and murders and politics. That's not typically what people go to K-Love to listen to, but I think an important job and a fun new challenge. I'll be reporting. We'll do a lot of live local news breakaways across the country, and I'll get to do some longer form, kind of human interest type stuff, a lot of faith-based stuff, as K-Love is the largest Christian broadcaster in the world. And so I'm honored to have that opportunity. And I've been honored to be here at SuperTalk. I've had a great experience and gotten to learn a lot under JT Mitchell and with Caleb Sailors and Kelly Bennett on the news team. And to get to be on shows, get to hang out with you and everybody else. It's been a real treat.
Well, we've enjoyed working with you, and we certainly wish you absolutely all the best.
I appreciate it.
As you continue your career. So are you going to stay in the area, or are you moving to Nashville?
Moving up there.
Oh, are you?
Yeah. Next week,
awesome.
I think my mom's getting a little worried because I don't have a place to stay yet, and I don't have a date that I'm moving. But I'm working on it. I'll figure it out.
You'll
I usually just
kind of
crash land into places.
Well, that sounds like an interesting career move there.
I think so, yeah. And it's funny. I mean, 3 years ago, if you would have told me I was working this job at SuperTalk, and especially as a national news anchor, I would have kind of laughed at you a little bit. It was never the plan to be in news. I was a full-time sports broadcaster and sort of I think providentially stumbled into my most recent 2 gigs in the news, and I've had a lot of fun. I've learned a lot, and I think I've grown in a lot of different ways, and I think it's an important job.
Well, you've done great.
Thank you, Gerard. I appreciate it.
I'll miss our between the breaks conversations.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah, Ben. But
yes,
don't be a stranger.
I won't. I'll be tuning in to MidDays.
All right. Best of luck to you. God bless, Ben.
Thank you, Gerard. You too.
Ben Milam, SuperTalk Mississippi News. We're stepping aside for a break, coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
Hey, this is Bob.
Okay, is everybody ready?
I'm ready. Ready here.
Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk Mississippi.
It's a little bit funny, this feeling inside. I'm not one of those who can easily hide. I don't have much money, but boy, if I did, I'd buy a big house where we both could live. If I was a sculptor, But then again, no, or a man who makes potions in a traveling show. I know it's not much, but it's the best I can do. My gift is my song, and this one's for you.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays. Appreciate that, Rhino. Yeah, it's my anniversary, 44 years, and when we were in college, when we met, Julie and I, she decided that would be kind of our song, your song there by Sir Elton John. It is a great tune. Great lyrics. Appreciate that. We're back with you in the Element Well studio.
It's one of those songs that saw a renaissance when it was featured in a movie.
Oh, what was that?
It was in the musical movie Moulin Rouge.
Okay. That was one of my daughter's favorites, Moulin Rouge. A lot of Beatles music in that, right?
That was Across the Universe.
Okay. All right. But the movie itself was mostly music, though, was it not? Kind of a...
yeah. I mean, it's like that modern-style musical where not everything's sung, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I didn't know that. That's neat.
I guess that's not really what makes a modern musical the musical. The modern musicals are the ones without the ballet performance, because the classical musicals always have the ballet performance.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. That's why you have that weird dream sequence in Oklahoma where they're all doing ballet, because you had to have ballet in a musical.
Yeah, that's true. As the great Johnny Carson used to say, I did not know that. And Ed McMahon, whoa, whoa, whoa. What happened to the good old glory golden days of late night television? Man, do I ever miss those days, huh?
Well, they screwed over the only ones that were actually going to be the future of it. Conan O'Brien got the short end of the stick, and then, what was the goofy Scottish guy's name? Larry Ferguson.
Oh, yeah.
He was great.
Yeah,
They just didn't want to keep going down that road. So instead, they got Jimmy Fallon and Colbert.
Yeah, no longer. He still can't figure out, why don't they keep me? They're only losing $40 million a year. And
now he's doing his best to get fired.
It appears that way, to call attention to himself, right? Look at me. And, of course, he, taking the cue from what appears to be the instructions from on high in liberal universe, he couldn't talk about it without an expletive that had to be beeped out on national television either. This time it was directed at the president. It's just, he's an idiot is what he is. He's insufferable. I'm glad he's gone. And now they've replaced it with South Park, which actually does make money, right?
Yeah, those guys got $1.5 billion for 5 seasons of 10 episodes apiece.
That's unbelievable. Well, it actually is funny, though, right? Colbert.
He's got his funny moments. I mean,
it does.
It's kind of like The Simpsons. It'll never be as strong as it was in its early seasons, but it's got staying power.
Unlike Colbert, who's not funny. He thinks he is, though,
he's
doesn't
been preachy for a minute now.
Oh, man. What's really funny, one of the episodes.
Craig Ferguson, that's
Craig Ferguson, that's right. That in South Park, I think it was South Park, was, and this was way before this was a thing. I think it was when they're talking about being transgender, one of the characters, right, in the bathroom. Wasn't that South Park?
Yeah. It was Cartman.
Yeah. Wants to go to the bathroom that doesn't match.
Yeah, he put a bow in his hair, so he got to go to the girls' room.
Because I'm transgender. It's great. Oh, my God.
Then they had Mr. Garrison, who went through the sex change, and they showed the operation in the episode.
Oh, my God.
That's pretty gross.
Oh, man.
And then they skewered the trans athletes when they had the Macho Man Randy Savage-looking dude competing in the women's events, winning gold.
Oh, gosh. What are you doing in here? I'm transgender. Who'd have thought that had tied up our society into knots the way it has, man? Good grief. It's just
what happens when you let the tail wag the dog.
That's exactly what happened. I totally agree. You know, while we're talking about that, there have been some videos released that show Vanderbilt and the University of Tennessee, sort of undercover recordings, I guess, of some of their administration talking about DEI and how they're skirting the executive order from the president that essentially abolishes it and requires colleges to end their DEI efforts if they want to continue to be eligible for grants and federal money. And these videos, you've seen this, have surfaced where they're talking about how they're circumventing these new policies, right? It's just crazy. Why are they so obsessed with this stuff?
Because their entire ideology is not built on public policy or governance. It's on being aggrieved and tribalistic revenge.
Tribalistic is the appropriate word there. So
they're convinced that their lives suck because white man, orange man bad. So in order to do everything in their power to make white men kowtow to them and stick it to orange man bad, they will do the most illogical and asinine things.
Unbelievable. So one of the people who was recorded, again, like I said, undercover, is goes by the name of Ivy Kamoosh. I think I pronounced that correctly. But what's more important is what that person's position is. Academic coach at the Center of Student Well-Being. What the heck is that all about? What?
They're the people that bring out the coloring books and bubbles for the stress relief during exam week.
Well, I start thinking about positions like this that I don't think existed when I was in college back in the 70s. And you wonder why the price of college is expensive. It's because you got to pay for all these dumb positions. Because it's not only the people, but there's a lot of second-order thinking, I know. There are a lot of assets and resources and other expenses associated with every single dang employee. I mean, this person's got a nice office, that's well outfitted and so forth. What do they do? Student wellness and well-being.
You got to have a landing spot for at least some of the people you pump out with useless degrees.
and I'm not trying to belittle the fact that you're capable of having issues, wellness and well-being issues when you're in the college age group. I get it. But is it appropriate to have people on staff at a university? What do they do? I guess that's just it. Are they truly addressing? I mean, because there's like physical ailments. Usually there are infirmaries on campus for that, right? You get sick, you go to the infirmary. And get a shot or some drugs or something. But this is more about you're mad because somebody misgendered you, I guess, right? And
pretty much.
You got to go see them. What do we got to have that for? But there's more. This is, I think that's at maybe it's at Vanderbilt. But there are others that have.
I mean, it really boils down to the feminization of society. It's the societal fainting couch.
That's a good way to put it. Same thing at the University of Tennessee. Crazy stuff going on up there as well. Staffers at UT, they are boasting about how good the school's government relations team is helping to guide the staff and the administration to circumvent the anti-DEI legislation that was passed at the state level. So it's not just the executive orders at the federal level. And, of course, here we got this judge, Wingate, that comes out and says, oh, no, you can't do that because the ACLU files a lawsuit. And I couldn't find any information about who specifically exactly are the plaintiffs that they're representing. Just people mad because they can't make a living peddling this crap and producing what amounts to nothing of value? What do they do? Why do we need all that? Oh, man, it just seemed to me like the first place to start trimming expenses. Yeah, we have an incredible government relations team, so I guess they're talking. They says the team is so good they know which bills to be mindful of, how to best prepare and everything. So here we are. These offices were built back in 2020. They're still up and running. They hadn't done squat, even though it's law. We're coming right back with the final segment of Hour 2 on Midday. Stay with us.
Poly up of Mississippi. Middays with Gerard.
Good for America. Good for fans of justice and truth. Good for us.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
This is what we stand for.
Lost in twilight, the memories, precious moments, you and me. We've been old friends all through the years. Picture postcards, sharing tears. As I walk away, why can't this night go on forever?
$1986, that's the year that song was released. The Raised on the Radio album by Journey. Appreciate that, Rhino. By the way, the guitar riff at the end of that, we may have to crank that up. It's totally awesome by the great Neil Schon, of course. It's his riffs are always haunting is the way I describe them. Looking for a word to describe guitar riffs, I'm not sure. There are numerous words you could use, but and that, of course, in 1986, you're in the height of the music television era, and it's a really cheesy video, by the way. As they all were, but we enjoyed that stuff back then. Don't forget, we're going to be at the Neshoba County Fair next week. It's official. I'm there Wednesday and Thursday hosting Middays from Founder Square. And Richard Cross, host of Mornings, he'll be there on Thursday. It's one of the biggest events of the year, and you don't want to miss it. And on Thursday, I got to make my way over to the stage there at the track right after the show. The house band will be performing. We had practice last night. I got to tell you, it was almost a 6-hour practice. I left here, went down to the Trade Mart. That's where we're set up. I'm sore today from all the arm and leg movement. But honestly, I'm pretty excited. It sounded good. I told you I wasn't at first like, man, we don't sound too good. This is kind of embarrassing. But it's coming together. It just takes time, man. And thus the 6-hour practice. So one song we worked on about 5 times to get it right. And it happens to be our final tune that we're going to play. So looking forward to it, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you guys are over there, of course, come by the SuperTalk set. Nearby the tents, you'll see them nearby Founder Square, and then head on over to the track at 1 o'clock for the show. So from our news department, Caleb Sailors tuned in, heard us talking about this suit filed by the ACLU to block Mississippi's anti-DEI legislation. Judge Henry Wingate saw fit to do so. The ACLU representing plaintiffs, and I wasn't sure who the plaintiffs were because I've just read news reports on it. I haven't actually read the lawsuit itself, but Caleb has. He's dug into the suit as a good news sleuth would, of course. And it shows who the plaintiffs are, who, of course, in accordance with the normal process, have submitted affidavits to To make it official, Ryan Langley, president of Fostering LGBTQ plus Advocacy Resources and Environments. Boy, they come up with some acronyms now. FLARE, of course, FLAIR, the acronym. That's at Mississippi State University. Let's see. It described how administrators, in his affidavit, cited that this legislation removed FLAIR from its diversity center home, cut its funding stream, and restructured the organization to prevent potential violations of the act. There you go. And then we've also got Elizabeth Dawn Zimmerer, a librarian at Hines Community College, attests that there are provisions of Mississippi's legislation that have already chilled her ability to curate library content and book displays. She's uncertain whether promoting material for events like Black History Month or recommending titles related to race, gender, or identity violates the act. Are they overcomplicating this thing here? Let's listen in here. This is the great Neil Sean. Coming right back, folks.
Welcome to the show that challenges you to think deeply, and look beyond political posturing. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It is Middays. We're coming at you from the Element Wealth studio on this
Friday, y'all.
Go to myelementwealth.com or call 601-957-6006 to let Element Wealth help you find your balance between income, growth, and guarantees. As always, the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. Today on In a Mississippi Minute with Steve Azar, you'll hear an interview with musician Steve Allen. In a Mississippi Minute with Steve Azar is presented by Superior Catfish. Remember, there's catfish, then there is Superior Catfish. It's U.S. farm-raised catfish with homegrown flavor. Ask for it by name at your favorite store or restaurant. Go to superiorcatfish.com for more info. So, great tune, though. Did you enjoy the riff? I got to ask you. He's pretty good, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
It's just awesome. I love that. Perry's voice is as good as it gets in that one, the voice, as he is known. All right, so we've been having a good discussion this morning about economics, economic policy, kind of dwelling on that. This Cato Institute poll kind of shook a lot of people up that shows that the Gen Z generation in our country seems to have a favorable view of socialism, and about a third of them a favorable view of communism, totally clueless. And of course, is it a little radical for me to equate DEI to Marxism? I think it's a pretty blatant example of it. I mean, it does separate people, maybe not so much by economic status, which is the original tenets of Marxism. But
well, to the left, they're connected at the hip.
Okay. Well, we have an anti-DEI bill that passed in the state of Mississippi. It's pretty straightforward. It just says you can't have these departments in K through 12 and in higher ed. You can't have these departments that are focused on, that are purpose structured
because when you boil
to
it
advance
down,
those principles.
The dividing lines are between the haves and the have-nots for both ideologies.
Yeah, I think that's right.
It's just whether the haves and have-nots are based on racial differences or economic differences.
That's a good point.
And they tie all of that together with asinine, circular liberal logic.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Well, this bill that passed through our legislature, enacted by the governor this past session, that kind of swept the country in the red states. And I think paving the way was the president's executive orders early on that honestly reversed a lot of what Joe Biden issued in terms of pro-DEI. How about that? Executive orders where he mandated that the federal agency complex would prioritize diversity, equity, inclusion, essentially engage in discrimination and racism is really what it is in their hiring and promotions and contracting, compensation, almost everything where there are decisions to be made and someone has to distinguish between one individual or group and others, that they would always give the nod to those that fit their twisted standards of underprivileged and disadvantaged and, the gambit. And so that all started to really gain a lot of steam after the George Floyd situation, where it seems like every company in America stood up and commissioned DEI departments and changed all their policies around preferential treatment for certain groups of people in their hiring, in their promotion, in their compensation, and their board selections, and stupidly, as was the case with Bud Light, in their advertising and promotion, where they had tried to appease to a very small percentage of the population, which totally backfired on them. And you had other companies as well. Tractor Supply, not one you would expect to do so. Home Depot, my gosh, they went crazy on all that stuff. And all these companies mandating all their employees to attend these training and workshops where they'd hire these ridiculously expensive shakedown consultants peddling this garbage. But now they're all sort of reversing all that. There's a long list of companies that have said, yeah, we're getting back to business now. We're not doing this crap anymore.
It's because not only did it not make them any more money, it lost them
money. It lost them money, absolutely. Of course, the left would say, oh, yeah, companies that engage in DEI, they're more productive and more profitable. Bull. I'm saying horse hockey. They're making up numbers. You know that. So,
well, just use your eyes. Since DEI's implementation, everything's gone to crap.
Oh, no doubt about it. And it look, the Democrats don't want to, as you know, they don't want to admit it, but it's a good deal of the reason that Joe Biden and the Democrats lost at 24. They lean so heavily into that. And I still maintain it's discrimination. So what's amazing is these people that are the plaintiffs in this lawsuit that are being represented by the ACLU that took the state to court over this anti-DEI legislation. I think it's House Bill 1193, enacted in the 2025 session. They go to court on the basis that they're being discriminated against. Dudettes, you're the ones doing the discrimination. You're the ones discriminating. You're basically saying, oh, wait, you're a white male? Out. You got no chance. Am I exaggerating that?
No, that's pretty much the whole purpose behind DEI is to limit access to jobs and other necessities of social life if you're a white male.
And then that's it. So this bill, really simple, it just said you can't require in post-secondary education, for example, this got to be a very common practice where they would require the professors to issue diversity statements. Like, you've got to show us in writing what your plans are to uphold the standards of diversity. And our law says, no, you can't require that on the part of job applicants who were selected based on who wrote the best diversity statement. Not their qualifications, not any merit associated with their experience. Nope, nothing like that. You can't collect demographic data and use that in your admissions process. In other words, you can't create these quotas, if you will, that are designed to kind of configure the enrollment at an institution. We need some of them, some of those, some of them. You can't do that anymore. You can't have these enrollment quotas, and you can't admit on that basis. And this was really a big problem in the more elite private schools in this country. And though many of them, if not all of them, get federal money, and the president said you can't do that anymore, but it got so ridiculous that pretty much if you're a white male applicant and you never made a B in your life and you had perfect on all the entry exams, you got no chance.
Well, in reality, what really screwed the left on that situation was Harvard discriminating against another minority group, Asians.
Oh, and they're the ones that took them to court, yeah. Right? And it was appropriate that they did, because they clearly were qualified, more qualified than and met the standards better than those who they were admitting, because they were just looking the other way and admitting them and giving them extra credit, if you will, in the admissions process.
The left are for inclusion.
That's true, but
they're for protecting the rights of minorities. You just have to be the right minority,
and so
the one that's going to gain them political power.
The reality is, their idea of inclusion is really exclusion. It's what it is, and their diversity is really discrimination. But so the law is real simple. It says you can't penalize or discriminate against a student, employer, or contractor on the basis of their refusal to support.
But the worthless librarian reads that as, I can't put kitty gay porn on this display anymore.
That's exactly right. Oh, my gosh. So this notion of you can't include books related to, including content related to black history on the ship, that's not what that's about. That's not at all what it's about. What it's about is some of these stupid works, if you will, that glorify and praise these crazy lifestyles to third graders. That's the problem. We're coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
Think for a moment.
Interrupt this program. Gerard Gibert. Here we go.
This is huge news. Huge news. Huge. You need to listen to this.
Middays with Gerard. SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Standing in the rain with his head hung low. Couldn't get a ticket. It was a sold-out show. Heard the roar of the crowd. He could picture the scene. Put his ear to the wall. Then like a distant scream, he heard one guitar.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays. We got Foreigner. Jukebox Hero. Man, that'll get the blood flowing. That's a good one there. Appreciate that, Rhino. Yeah, it's my anniversary today, 44 years of marital bliss. Oh, man. I didn't forget, Julie. On the C Spire text line, Ray in Long Beach. Funny how the ones screaming the loudest for inclusion and tolerance are the most divisive and intolerant. Ain't no doubt, Ray. Rhino and I discussed that yesterday. The American liberal is the most intolerant ilk on the planet. There's no doubt about it. Here's the thing, guys, in my view. Forced inclusion, forced diversity achieves nothing but agitates people and pisses them off. That's what it does. You think you're doing something virtuous by forcing it through law and policy and order and directive? No, it's just the opposite. It's just the opposite. And don't tell me it can't happen organically. It does. It does on a daily basis. And it especially happens in a state like this where the balance between the races is so close. It's every day. It happens in a good way, in a good thing. That never gets discussed, ever. They always point to so-called fabricated inequities. And they always point to anything that goes wrong or negative or falls short. They always say, oh, yeah, it's because of their race. The Democrats still say that about Republicans. You just don't like black people. Horse hockey. You don't. Your policies have hurt them. They don't want to admit that. Of course not. Oh, no, we care about them. No, you don't.
The left's demand for racism far outstrips the actual realities supply.
That's absolutely true.
That's why the vast majority of the most egregious examples of racism in public turn out to be hoaxes, fabricated by people from the left that are so screwed up in the head that they've convinced themselves that no one will question them if they send themselves an email calling themselves mean things. They just like the attention.
You know, and it's so true because they almost, and maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I don't think so. It seems like they often celebrate, especially, and they jump to conclusions all the time, right? Oh, you know, it was this kind of person. They've already profiled and figured out anything that goes wrong. It's the people whom they loathe, right, that they profile, that they stereotype.
Oh, it doesn't even have to go that far. The joke on the internet about, I could put on social media that I like pancakes, and somebody will come along and go, oh, you must hate waffles. How dare you say you hate waffles? Wasn't even in the conversation, stupid.
That's right. So also among the plaintiffs in this lawsuit filed by the ACLU that has sought for and received at least a temporary restraining order from Judge Henry Wingate, which essentially means the state of Mississippi's anti-DEI legislation is on the back burner at this point. Well, also included among the plaintiffs, Brandy Williams, Director of Student Development at Tougaloo. She says that she's already suspended long-standing programs that provide support to LGBTQ plus students and faculty. Let me just stop right there. What do you mean support? What kind of support do they need? Why is a university why are they creating support groups for this one teeny tiny demographic?
Because the members of that one teeny tiny demographic are the loudest people on the planet.
That's so true. And let me be clear. I've said this a million times, and I'm going to say it again. That doesn't mean that I support forcing them to end their sexual lifestyle. I don't care. But I don't want to pay money for, and I don't want you to force that on me. Just do your thing. Leave me alone. Isn't that what they told us they wanted for decades? And now all of a sudden we say, okay, because I think most people have said, okay, fine, just do your thing. Leave us alone. No, that's not good enough.
Leave the kids alone.
Right, and leave the kids alone. Do not foist it on the kids. Let them be kids. Let them make their minds up when they become adults.
But if you dig down into that deep enough, you get into the uncomfortable truths of the vast majority of those in the LGBTQ alphabet soup were victims of sexual violence at a young age.
No doubt. My wife says the same thing. And you and I both know people who are LGBTQ.
Oh, yeah, I've had gay roommates. I got no problem with them.
Who don't like this crap either.
No.
They just don't say anything, right? They don't like this. They think it's dumb. They think it's stupid. They think it hurts their cause. All they want is equality. I'm okay with the equality. Their sexual lifestyle and orientation matters not under our Constitution, under our laws, to equality. Now, you can have a completely different philosophical discussion about other aspects of that, but from a legal aspect, they just want equality. I'm good with that. You got equality. Now be quiet. Leave us alone. Don't take over Dodger Stadium. Don't have these events that are attended by kids where you're thrusting this crap on them, acting inappropriately, both physically and with your language. And don't stick these stupid books out there. Daddy's pregnant, crap like that. That's not appropriate. Leslie Burrell McLemore, former director of the Fannie Lou Hamer National Institute on Citizenship and Democracy at Jackson State, attests that the institute was defunded and effectively dissolved. Okay, because we don't need that. What are they doing, man? Good grief. Now, here's what I suspect they would say, that the Declaration Center for the Study of Independence and Freedom at Ole Miss, Professor Stephen Skoltedi, who we've had on the program many times, does receive some of that. They'll say, oh, well, you have that, because that's common to all of us. In freedom, our founding documents, aren't we all part of that? Don't we all live under that? So
well, the left wishes it didn't exist, though.
That's right. But does it not make sense to have some organization in a college environment? You're essentially studying history.
It certainly provides more value academically than supporting the alphabet soup idiots.
Dr. Ray Bishop, who has extensive experience in workforce development programs, testifies that ongoing diversity training programs crucial to educational and employment. He says he's lost some money too. So I don't know what in the world that has to do with anything. Outcomes have been halted or gutted due to uncertainty about the law's reach. I don't know that that's been a problem. It just feels like they're taking the essence, the specifics, provisions of the law, and of course just expanding that to suit their own legal case, right? That's not unusual when you got lawsuits like this. It's the old, let's throw everything against the wall we can and see what sticks. In this case, this judge said, okay, guys, shut this thing down. We got to listen to this more. We got to investigate this more. Here's another one. Natalie Collier, founder of the Lighthouse Black Girl Projects, details how her partnerships with public institutions have been abruptly severed. She states that schools have withdrawn from cooperation events and curricula development, citing fear of repercussions under the bill. Man, what is that, though? Why can't it just be girl projects? Why does it have to be black girl projects? Do young white girls not need to be?
Because in the intersectionality Olympics, the more check boxes you can check off, the more power you have in the woke religion.
I was afraid you were going to say something like that. I don't know, man. And I'd look at this and say, well, okay, well, just go do that separate from education, right? And get private funding to do it and stand it up, and then you're good to go. This doesn't apply to that.
It's because they don't actually get enough results to garner private investment.
And I'll be honest, had this law extended into the private sector, this bill, I would not have supported it. That's not their place. Do I think it's stupid for private companies to do that? Yeah. But private companies have the right to be stupid. And I'll fight to protect their right to be stupid. We're stepping aside for a break. That's one of Julie and I's favorite songs right there. That's Long Time by Boston, 1976. Coming right back.
Gerard Gibert. Going beyond the headlines, breaking down the stories that matter to Mississippi. Middays with Gerard on SuperTalk Mississippi.
On the C Spire text line, we're back with you in the Element Wealth studio. What is Thomas saying here? Didn't the Supreme Court rule that LGBTQ was covered under the Civil Rights Act of 64 back in 2019? If so, the anti-DEI laws will always be struck down. Got to repeal the 1964 Act first. I disagree with that. I disagree with that. I think the difference is that these anti-DEI laws are designed to prevent discrimination. They're designed to protect civil rights, not to infringe upon them. You cannot convince me that
so
all
I
this.
consider the ACLU to be a gathering of some of the worst wastes of oxygen on the planet.
There's no doubt. In the Southern Poverty Law Center. Please don't forget that.
Oh, they're just
Marxist
scum.
group as well.
At least the ACLU every once in a while will do something that's worthwhile. Southern Poverty Law Center is just, ugh.
I know. It's totally insufferable. If you two wrote a book, I'd buy it, which is my encouragement for you to write a book. I appreciate that.
We'll alternate chapters.
Okay, on the C Spire text line.
You get the odd chapters, I'll get the even chapters.
There you go. That would be inclusion, wouldn't it? That's equity. Oh, my gosh. You have to laugh about it because it's another situation where you're being serious, people, about something that shouldn't be taken seriously. Because you're discriminating. You just are. And guess what? By discriminating, you're actually hurting the very people that you claim you're trying to help. An example is that when Harvard's not letting in the Asians who score like perfect on the ACT and have never made a B in their life, maybe never missed a question, and you're telling them, oh, you can't come in, you're not good enough, we got to let this all C grade person in, right, that made a 15 on the ACT because of the color of their skin or their sexual orientation. So you're think about it. I know it's second order thinking again. You're hurting everyone in society by not giving the best and brightest the opportunity to improve their skills so that they can go out and contribute to society. My gosh, it ain't that damn hard to figure out, is it? I know I get fired up about this. But they got everybody snowed and hoodwinked. Oh, yeah, if we just force you in there, you'll be better off. So, by the way, Mondami, he's proposing, it made me think about it, a $30 minimum wage, $30, $60,000 a year. But at the same time, we have a housing shortage. We have a problem there, or we have inflated housing prices. So, if you're making $30 an hour, $60,000 a year, even as a youngster that hasn't really even embarked on a career in a fast food, that's where you tend to think about that a lot. And that's most of the time staffed by young people. Heck, sometimes I just talk to them. I like to engage. What do? You know, a lot of them are students. They're just trying, just like I was a janitor trying to earn my way through college. So it's not uncommon to do that. But what the heck would the price of a hamburger be? It's already outrageous in New York. $40 for a hamburger? I know they don't think about that because that requires some of that second-order thinking. And by the way, wasn't it $20 an hour it was raised to in California not so long ago? That's totally backfired. You've seen that. Totally backfired on them. And now the In-N-Out Burger people in California say, we've had enough. We're getting out of here. Founded in California. Great hamburgers, by the way. Wish we had them around here. And they're packing up, leaving the state because they ran them off. Incredible. J.R. in Starkville says this DEI crap's been going on for years, 40 years, in the federal government. I did not get a postal job in 1982 because I am a white male, even with veterans priority benefit. I'm not surprised, and I've talked about it countless times, the procurement practices in the federal government. The procurement practices in the city of Jackson, our capital city. I've talked about it numerous times. I know, don't want to beat the horse to death, but it's essentially institutionalized racism and discrimination is what it is, because you're being hired often on immutable characteristics. You're not being hired based on merit and qualifications and skills and experience and value proposition. When you go buy something, do you buy it based on the value it is to you, or do you buy it based on the color of the skin of the person that made it?
Sadly, there are some on the left that would choose the latter.
Oh, they're idiots.
Well, yeah.
That's not common. You know that. That's once again, we're talking about a scant, small sliver of the minority, which is typical. But it seems like, as you've indicated, they're like dominating everything in our society. The appeasement to such a small group.
Because they got the biggest mouths.
I think that's right.
Somewhere along the way, they've lost all shame, and society has lost the willingness to... well, you know the saying, the squeaky wheel gets the grease?
Yep.
Eventually, if the wheel keeps squeaking enough, you just replace the wheel. We seem to have lost that ability. We just keep greasing the same squeaky wheel.
And that's not in the best interest of overall society.
No.
It's just not. And so, start thinking about the Biden administration, how much effort they expended on exactly what we're talking about. All these societal, cultural, equity and diversity, and it's just constantly obsessed with race and gender and climate change and all that stuff.
It's how they found themselves on the wrong side of a vast majority of 80-20 topics.
That's absolutely true. Meaning that even Democrats, people in their own party, said, no, you've gone too far for me. You've seen this report where they have misrepresented inflation with respect to groceries.
Oh, yeah, the Democrats' tweet.
Yeah, which they've now removed, where they're showing this
grocery prices have hit a record high in 2025 under Trump, and the chart shows that, yeah, they went sky high under Biden, and they barely made a blip up since then.
And what, once again, they don't realize is that people do have the ability to at least rationalize things like that. They know. They remember. It was the talk. Man, the price of this, that, and the other is just through the roof. It all happened in a relatively short period of time when we were being told by the Biden administration this is transitory. Don't worry. Stand down. Go back to work. Everything's going to be fine. And we got told that over and over and over and over again, except it wasn't. And it's all because of politics. Because Joe Biden, I know I've said it before, he had to sign that stupid American Rescue Plan, which just absolutely ignited a fire that was smoldering out, that was turning into just faint embers, and he had to pour fuel on it. The next thing you know, you got a blazing fire of 9% inflation, and we're still struggling with that, honestly. But, yeah, they completely misrepresented that and misreported it. Are they just that stupid? I mean, they can't, see the numbers on the chart there? Can't read a line chart, which is really what it was?
No, they're so enamored with their hatred of Trump that they just saw the higher number under Trump and didn't do any actual thinking. But then again, they're not real strong on the thinking side.
Just amazing. It's just amazing to me, man. But yet, there's still a lot of people that buy into all that garbage. Something that is a concern that you should be aware of is that the premium tax credits are set to expire, the enhanced premium tax credits that were part of the American Rescue Plan. They were initially part of the Inflation Reduction Act and then extended in the American Rescue Plan through the end of the year, and those are set to expire. The big, beautiful bill did not address them, which means they're just going to expire without action on the part of Republicans in the legislature, or the Congress, pardon me, and you're going to see a fight about this in the next couple of months. Trust
if
me.
Republicans in Congress were half as quote-unquote conservative as they claim to be, they would be spending every day between now and the midterms dropping single-issue, single-page bills to get votes on the record for all of their platform planks.
Yeah, I agree. And this is going to be one of them. And the Democrats are already starting to speak up about this. The Republicans have been kind of mum on it. But premiums are going to go up. First of all, insurers are telling us that premiums are going up next year, just organically through inflationary factors. That's what they're saying. And then you got the premium tax credit. The enhanced credits are going to expire, which means a lot of people are not going to be able to keep their coverage they got in the Obamacare exchanges. It's going to be a big issue. But my question for the Democrats is, we're just returning to the original law. What's wrong with that? This is what Obama wanted. Coming right back, final segment.
Gerard Gibert. He keeps his classified documents right where they belong. Inside a Journey record jacket from the 1980s. Gerard Gibert. SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays, final segment on this Friday, y'all. Next week, the giant house party at the Neshoba County Fair. Appreciate that, Rhino. A little journey there. Be good to yourself. It's my anniversary, number 44 in the books. Can't wait for the next 44. So before we went to break, I was talking about the ACA subsidies, the premium tax credits, and the Democrats are just melting down. You're taking the health care away. And here's the truth. So what Biden did, he took the subsidy structure that was enacted into law in the Obamacare legislation, 2010, and this is for people to buy coverage in the exchanges. It's private coverage. This isn't Medicaid, but they get subsidies from the government to purchase it. And it's based on your income level, and the way it works is your premium price is set at a percentage of your income. So when the law was passed, and before, under the Biden administration, they enacted these enhanced subsidies, if your income was between 100 and 138% of the federal poverty level, your premiums would be 2.07%. Now, I'll do the math for you real quick. That means you make $21,000 a year, and your health insurance would be about $415 a year. So under Biden, in the American Rescue Plan, that went to zero. So instead of paying $415 a year, you pay zero a year. And that went up to 150%. So all it really did is kind of slide everything, all these percentages up, so that instead of paying 4% when your income's at 200% of the federal poverty level, you'd pay 2%. And that was good enough when the law passed by the Democrats in 2010. Now all of a sudden, it's dog meat. And the Republicans are taking your health care away. No, we're just simply returning it to what it was when Obama passed it.
It's because the average Democrat voter has the attention span of a goldfish.
This is all we're doing, setting it back to what it was. The cost to taxpayers for those subsidies, about $100 billion a year, and growing. Because the subsidies are so generous, because of the helicopter money passed in the American Rescue Plan. So that's where they are, and they're just freaking out about this. And I wish they would be honest. Yeah, we're just returning it to what it was. We're not taking anything away, just returning it. That's all. Letting what was enacted for COVID expire, because we don't have COVID anymore. That was the pretense. I'm going to call it the pretense, not the premise, not the basis. The pretense was, got to have this for COVID. Man, everything was that. Well, it's why we have all these financial problems we're facing today, is because we found a way. I mean, we as overall society. I don't mean me and you or those that knew this was a hoax for the most part. But folks found a way to expand their power and to drop money out of helicopters, all because of a virus. And we're still suffering the consequences of that today, is what I believe. The good news is the president did sign the $9 billion rescission bill that's cutting funding for various foreign aid programs and lots of public broadcasting as well. And there are concerns that could affect Mississippi public broadcasting. But is that another situation where should the state be in the broadcasting business? I mean, there was a time when it was thought, well, this fills in the gaps and the holes where traditional private sector outlets can't reach. That's just not the case anymore. So is it kind of not outlived its purpose, I would say? Yeah. And
plus, they've seen a sharp uptick in their private donations. It's almost like they didn't need the tax money.
I agree. And isn't that also the case, you would think, with if all these left-wing elite rich people that are complaining about this? Well, if you love NPR and PBS so much, open up your wallet and give them more money. Same thing with the one year pause of Medicaid funding to Planned Parenthood. Fill the gap, private sector, private people, I should say. You're in love with this organization so much. Don't make me pay for it. You pay for it. Hit the hip and pay for it out of your pocket. Unfortunately, it's only for 1 year. So the Democrats never talk about, you know how they get all mad because of the way the sausage had to be made? They don't talk about this. This is 1 year. 1 year. Then it returns. They don't want to tell you that.
Because that doesn't gain them any political power.
Right, and it's all about that. Everything's measured on that basis, unfortunately. We're out of here today, folks. It is now time for the weekend. I hope you have a great one. Thanks so much for joining us. Happy anniversary, Julie. Until Monday, stay safe and God bless everyone.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.